Okay, good morning everybody. Back with, my name's Samantha Maribal, back with the applications team, and we're here again to kind of go over whatever questions you might have on DesignShop or pretty much whatever you want to talk about. I'm usually game for. I've got some questions that were sent in ahead of time. If you have questions while we're live, feel free to type them in on the feed. The comments, don't send them privately because I don't see those, and I don't have anyone here with me to be able to tell me that those are coming through. So just type them in on the comments. We're live on both Facebook and YouTube. So I'll be looking off to the left. Good morning, Scott, to kind of keep track of any comments that come in. So if you see my eyes darting off to the side, that's what I'm doing. I'm looking through comments. So we'll go ahead and jump in with the questions that were sent in ahead of time and go from there. Yep, it looks like it's all streaming. Good. Okay, so digitizing a puff design, what density is advised? So we've done quite a few good videos on that, and there's an entire section. So just so you can see where to find these resources rather than me just giving you a link, if you go to service, let's see, melco-service.com. Hey, come back, Facebook. There. Okay, so if you go to melco-service.com, and then over here on this FAQ thing, click on that. And this will take you to a really valuable area to search for info. So there's a lot of good info out here. It's updated on a regular basis, the tech support team and other folks. Yes, Lorena, I am alive. We have had, I've had a rough few weeks with family in the hospital and whatnot. So I'm glad to be back. So over here on the Melco service site, if we come over here and type Puff and just hit search, you'll see we've got videos on how to do it, some digitizing. There are the properties and how to use those. Down here, you'll see there's some sample Puff files that you can practice sewing with, and there's also a document that goes through a lot. If you're wondering how to actually set up your machine for Puff, there's the details in this little document. So it is a great resource for you to look into. But I would start with those videos and see if those answer your questions. And if not, let us know what else we can help with. And we will get on that. Will the new Windows 11 update cause problems with DesignShop V11? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't know. I would assume not, and if it does, there'll be a service pack. But I would assume not. I will pass that on to the team, and if there is, I'll be back with y'all, but I highly doubt it's going to affect anything. Okay, so there was a question, where can I find the information on the differences between DesignShop Pro Plus? So that's going to be, I assume, basically version 10 versus V11. So the high end of version 10 versus the high end of V11. So version 11 didn't remove features. It only added features. So anything that was there in V10 is still there. It may be renamed. So there was some renaming that went along. But there is a video that was done to kind of go over the new features. It's on YouTube. We'll get the link. We will get you the link over there, but again, there is a video out there. If you also go to the Melco site for V11, it discusses some of the new features, but if you want to just kind of see them walk through it, Mike and Nate and some of the guys did a nice little video that kind of went through all the new features, and that will show you what's new to V11. But you know, V10 Pro Plus versus V11 Pro, nothing was removed, it was just added. Okay, so there was another question over here. It says, how can I fix a purchase design that is not dense enough or has gaps in the stitching? All right, so that is an interesting question, because when you go to designs that you've purchased, you'll notice they're not wireframe. So this one I got from OESD. I buy designs from them quite often, so I just picked this one. All right, so this one actually sewed out fine, but let's say for whatever reason you want to modify its density. What do you do with it? Okay, well, because it's an expanded format, I can't just come up to what you normally would have your property box up here and say change the density from 4 to 3 or whatever you're going to do. You can't just jump to that. What you would have to do is select the element that you want to modify. So let's say it's this back pink that I want more thread. I want more stitches down. I can come over here and right click on it, go to properties, okay, or right click, go to scale. So I usually just go straight to scale. All right, and in here you get some ability to modify things. So if you want to add some pull compensation, you have that here, but down here, look, if I want to change the density, I can change that to 150% or whatever. So again, you right click on it, go to scale, and then you can change the densities here. If there were columns, these wouldn't be grayed out, so you'd be able to modify those as well. But that's where you would go and kind of modify your expanded files. I suggest when you're doing this sort of thing, modify just the elements that you want, that you know you want to change. Don't do the whole design. There's usually no reason for that. And remember, when you're working with expanded files, you are changing the original. So just keep that in mind as you're working with it. Okay, but yeah, you would select what you want to modify, right click, go to scale, and then down here, density, let's say I want it 90. All right, so that removes some stitches. All right, so you can go through and modify them accordingly for whatever situation you're looking for. If you want more thread, you're going to add more stitches. If you want, the threads further apart, you're going to reduce stitch count. Okay. All right, let me quick look and see if there's any questions on YouTube. Nope, not on Facebook. So let me close that and come back to my questions. All right, how do I get rid of jump stitches in an expanded file? I have another machine other than Melco that uses PES files, and it doesn't remove them like the Melco does. When I assume what you're asking is you want your other machine that leaves the jump stitches to get rid of them. What I've always found is that really tends to be settings on the machine. Not knowing the machine or anything like that, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. You can always try a different format and then saving it off as a PES. The DST files, or saving from one to another and then opening it up on your other machine to see if those help. I know the different formats save trim commands differently, so it just might be a matter of how that machine is reading it. And depending on the machine, there may be a way to update your settings. Again, I'm not extremely familiar with all the different machines on the market. There's some I've personally worked with, so I know that the settings can be modified, but I believe that's what you're asking is, you have jump stitches and you want your other machine, or you usually don't if you sew it on the Melco, but when you go to your other machine, it leaves the jump stitches. How do you get rid of that? That usually is a jump conversion thing that is based on that specific machine. So the best thing I could suggest would be to ask whoever supports those machines for you. If that's not what you're asking, please let me know. I might be misunderstanding. Do you happen to know why I get some tails on my sew out when I have my settings for tail length set to short? What machine? It may be as simple as checking your critical measurements. It might be because you don't have your tie-in and tie-outs set correctly. Let's see, so if you don't have a tie-in stitch, it may be leaving the tail up top. If you don't have a tie-off, again, it might be leaving your tail before the trim. So I would look at your tie-in and tie-out settings. I would, look at, I'm trying to think what else. I mean, critical measurements are always a good thing, but I wouldn't start there. I would start with, the basics of the digitizing, check the digitizing. You can always run a known good file and like one day, and if it does it for them, or if it does it for a known good, then go to critical measurements. The critical measurements are in the tech manual. They're also, Chris Fenton has done, one of our master techs, or the master tech has done a video on needle depth, I believe, and needle calibration. All of those would be worth checking, as well as hook timing. I don't believe he did a video on that. Maybe he did. I don't remember. So those would be the kind of the 3 critical measurements I would look at. So, and also the front to back spacing on the retaining finger. So I would first start with the digitizing. So a known good, so a file, and kind of compare there. If it's doing it for everything, then move on to critical measurements. If it's not, then go look at the digitizing. What's different? Okay, you're welcome, Ben. All right, so let's see what else. How can I make I don't know, sketch TrueType font text? I assume you're asking how can you use TrueType? You're using a Cyrillic font because we don't have any embedded. So using TrueType fonts, you basically just install it into your computer, and then you would type it out how you normally would. If it's a character-based font like what you're describing, you would go and use the character map. So a few different ways you can do that is when you're typing. Let's see. Okay, so if I go into properties, over here is where you normally would insert your characters. Now you'll notice the character map is now built into version 11 down here. So you literally would go find whatever character is on the font you want. So if you have TrueType fonts installed, that I'm trying to think which ones I might have that are character based. Oh, the Hebrew one, that's one. Okay, so let's say I want that one. I can drop them in that way, or I can copy and paste them into the thing over here, and the characters will then come up when you have that particular font selected. Okay, so you can get to them there. If you have a previous version of DesignShop, you just go find the character map. So I usually just do it that way, search for it, and then you find the character you want, select it, copy it, and then when you're over here typing, it's not going to work because I'm picking a font that doesn't have that character. I can paste it, and now that character is there. Look at that. Huh, that's cool. Anyway, so you can paste your characters in that way as well. Now, are we doing a Cyrillic font? I don't know. That you can email applications@melco.com, and someone we can look into that, either add it to the list, or if it's already in works, give you some info on that. I don't know personally, but I would suggest emailing applications@melco.com, and one of the guys that works on the fonts might be able to help out there. Okay, but anyway, that's how you would use the characters. So basically, install your TrueType font, close DesignShop, reopen it. That font that you want will now be in your list. So when you create your text, you would just select that font and then, put your characters in that you would want. I will say when I've done some Chinese, or I don't think it was Chinese, I think it was Korean. Anyway, when I've done some character type stuff, the clients have given me the exact characters and the font. I've installed the font, just copied the characters and pasted it, and it worked great. That way I didn't have to go look through the character map to try to check them all. So however they typed them, I just copied and pasted it, and it worked great. Okay, so we did get you a link on adjustments on how to find those videos. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? All right, so that was the Cyrillic fonts. Can you do chenille stitching on the EMT16X, or does it require a different machine? Yes, you can do it. Again, remember where I showed you that service area where you can look for different topics and whatnot? All I did was search for the word chenille, and there's nice video out there. There are the styles that you need if you're doing your own digitizing. There's also some sample designs and a little document out here that talks about it. So I would suggest watching that video and downloading these things to play with. It's a fun effect. You're going to want to use flat threads, so either like a firefighter thread, or I haven't tried it with frosted matte. It's thinner, so that might not work as well, but usually it's done with a thread like Burmalana, which is a yarn. That's what I can call it anyway. It's like sewing with a yarn. You end up using a larger needle and this kind of really chunky, fuzzy thread. Use the special digitizing and technique settings on the machine, and you're good to go. But yeah, it's not a true chenille. It's a faux chenille, but it gives you a similar effect. Now, true chenille is done with a special machines specific to making those that very specific pattern. So, but you can get a pretty nice kind of bumpy look by using this technique here. Okay, so check those out. Let us know if those don't help with your questions. Okay, and we did get the link in the comments, so you don't have to try to find it if you don't want. Let's see. All right, so this one is saying that when they went to go rotate a design, it kind of was redrawing so when they went to go turn it within DesignShop, it would redraw weird. It would eventually show up right, but it was being annoying for their tastes. Okay, so when you go to rotate, if you haven't rotated something, you would select everything. The black handles, right, that you see here, these little squares, that's for scaling. If I want to rotate, I would click on the box again, and now you'll see they're hollow. That's a rotation mode. So, you know, I can rotate it around. It puts them where it is. But those little lines that you see there as it's rotating were laggy on the little video. Okay, so things you would look for is, do you have appropriate hardware on your computer? This is a very graphics intensive program, so this is a pretty small design, so it does easy. But if I'm using a larger design that has a lot of stitching, a lot of detail to it, it's going to need the better graphic card to be able to rotate, to be able to display things correct. So making sure you have a dedicated graphics card that has RAM on it, and that the software is that you're set up to run on the RAM, the graphics on that graphic card, then you'll be good to go. If not, you can always try this right here. If you come to this Show Stitches in 3D, right click on it, you can see if this is changing it. So you said in that particular question, something's different from before. You can try toggling that setting and see if it does anything different for you. So try that. Norman on YouTube has a question but needs to send a picture, so he's going to try to go put it on Facebook. All right, cool. If you put it in the comments on the live that's there, I'll see it. Okay, let me quick scan other questions. I don't see anything there. No more on YouTube, so let's go back to my canned stuff. Let's see. Is there a way to change the hoop limits for Mighty Hoops? Okay, so I guess, is there a way? Yes. Do I recommend it? No. I'm trying to think of how to say it without. All right, so the hoop limits that you see here, so let me go show them to you on the screen first. All right, so when you set these to be your Mighty Hoops, so let me find one. Oh, I don't have any set. All right, let me go turn one on. Let's do that. Where are you? There we are. Let's turn on that one. Okay. So I'm going to go turn on my Mighty Hoop. That big old square. I have this one. All right. So the black lines here represent the kind of plastic of the hoop, and the dotted line is the large, the area that you have to sew within. So you're saying that Midwest says you can sew larger than that, which, remember, these hoops are used on many machines, not just Melco machines. All you do, you're changing the brackets and you can install them on different machines. So depending on how your machine is set up and how it's designed, you're going to have different limits. Some might skew one way or another. So for instance, on the Melco machines, our presser foot comes down and it's kind of skewed to the back right, which means all of the space, you need every bit of it. Otherwise, you're going to be slamming your presser foot into this thing right here. The back part that comes down and bends is going to be hitting the plastic of this hoop, right? Where I guess you could go a little closer here because that's just the front of the presser foot. But at some point, it's a safety issue, right? There are tolerances, things move. You really don't want to have a hoop strike. It's not fun. It sounds awful. It usually scares the daylights everyone. I mean, I'll be honest, I've hit my share of hoops, and it messes up needle depths. It breaks needles. It's not really pleasant. I wouldn't recommend it. Who's calling me? I'm busy. So while you can change the hoop limits, these are set for safety reasons specific to our equipment to make sure we're not banging into hoops, because there's nothing worse than slamming into a hoop and bending parts, and then now you got to go fix it all. So yes, you can technically create your own hoops, or even turn on hoop. Actually, I think you said you had a Bravo, or did you not say? You didn't. Okay. Bravos, you can't turn off hoop detection, but I mean, you could turn off hoop detection and just ignore the rules, but just be careful. Just realize anytime you're doing that, you're taking the risk that you're going to do damage, and that's never fun. All right, so let's see. Norm, did you send me anything? Oh, someone. All right, so what else? I don't see anything from you yet, Norm. So, and I think I'm about out of questions. Yeah. All right, I'm going to wait one more second, see if anything pops up. Okay, yeah, so those are all the questions I had from ahead of time. Okay, and I don't see any more comments. So I'll hold up in case anyone wants to type any others on. Remember, we try to do these every week. I know last week I had just a mess. But back at it this week. Hope to keep that going. You can email questions to applications@milco.com. You can type them in on these feeds. Generally about a day or 2 days before I do a Q&A, I post in some of the groups asking for questions. So anytime you see this little header thing saying, hey, what questions do you have? If you comment on those threads, I at least 2 hours before the live, I'll usually get them in on there. Okay. Oh, you posted it on Facebook. Where on Facebook? Because I don't see any. Yeah, I don't know where you posted it, Norm, because I'm not seeing it. Oh, yeah, it would need to be on the live for me to be able to see it. So let me quick go look. Because that's the only thing I monitor while I'm here is the live feed. So you'd basically just add it as a comment to that. And for some reason, I'm having issues getting to the group right now. Where's the discussion? Yeah, I have no idea. Okay. So I'll have to look at that, Norm, and get back to you because I'm not seeing anything on the live. Ah, there's the group. Yeah, I don't see it. Okay, so let me know, or I'll look for it after this and get back with you. Short of that, I will be back next week. I hope these are helpful for you. You enjoy them. Be back next week to see how do I resize a design in the hoop? Someone just asked. Okay. Resize a design. All right. So you do that in DesignShop, not in the OS. So let me go get a new design. Oh, and we have another question. Any advice on sending an outline of a design to a cutter machine? Sure. All right, so let's go resize the design first. So I'm going to go to my C drive just to grab a design. Under Designs, this is where you'll find some that come with the machine. And I'll open One Day. All right, so to scale, you would resize it. There's a bunch of ways to do it. You can select the whole design by drawing a box around it. You can come over here in your project view and click on design. Once it's selected, you can do it by number down here. So let's say you want this to be 4. I can say I want it 4. This was created in an older version. It gives me a warning. I say okay. Okay, so now it's 4 inches. If I want to put it back down to 3, so that's by number. If you want to do it visually, you can left click and drag, but keep in mind it lets me do silly things like this. Should I be scaling this like that? Probably not. So what I probably want to do is keep the portions, right? X and Y. So you can do that by holding your shift key that locks X and Y. So now you can do it visually. So I select it, hold the shift key down on my keyboard, left click and drag, and until it's the size you want. So if you have a particular hoop that you're trying to make it fit into, you can just hold your shift key and drag it around and you'll get that. Okay. Now, as far as creating, sending a design, an outline to a cutter, I'll just show you how I tend to do it myself. So let's say, I'm just going to create a circle because it's easy. All right. So let's say I have a circle, and this is actually a applique of some sort. Okay. So we'll just say pretend this is an applique file. All right. So there's my placement, copy, paste, give it a new color, make that a bean stitch, and then copy, paste, make that by holding Control and click on that single line. Now it's a satin. I'm going to change it to a tackle and make that 30 in a different color. All right, so now I have a basic applique design. I have a placement, a tack down, the zigzag that holds it in place, and then my cover stitch at the end. All right, so that's if you're going to cut in the hoop, but what you're wanting to do is actually cut this with a cutter. So I usually just take that first placement stitch and I copy it, just Control C, go to a new file, Control V, file, save as, and save it as an SVG. That's what I do. And then I just load the SVG to whatever file I want it to go to, whatever, software I'm using, whether it's going to be my laser or a cutter of some sort. Now, we do have a video that we just posted on that gives some other suggestions on cutting for applique. So there's also a video there for you. Okay. Okay. All right. So I will be back at this next week, and Norm, I'll be sure to go look for whatever thing you had there to either get it answered for you or put it on next week's, whichever, and we'll go from there. All right. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend and have some fun sewing. I will talk to you guys next week. You're welcome. I'll talk to you later. Bye all.